Hi, Dr. Dave here, and welcome to this episode of Setting the Record Straight on Red Light Therapy. Now, I know the odds of me keeping your attention span for more than 5 minutes is about as good as me as winning the lottery. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into one of my favorite topics, irradiance. Are any of you blown away by some of these claims out there by all these manufacturers? They're all over the map in listing irradiance values. In the spirit of more is better, all of them are posting these high numbers to try and claim that top spot against their competitors. Does this mean they're lying? Well, I can't speak for all of them, but for most of them, I'd say no, they're not. So if they're not lying, then what are they doing? Well, I'll tell you what they're doing. They're using the wrong equipment for their application. Well, not really exactly wrong, just not calibrated for their application. So, like many before them, they have just fallen victim to improper test equipment, or more importantly, not understanding how to properly use the sophisticated equipment for their specific application. I've seen this before in emerging markets that don't have dedicated measurement equipment yet, and they're left to use the equipment from other fields. They just don't understand the equipment enough and how to tailor it to this new measurement application. I think I can demonstrate what's going on here. Having been in the lighting industry for over 30 years, I know how to measure all forms of light. I have amassed enough lighting equipment to fill a tractor trailer full. Let me show you just a few of them over here. You have your thermopiles that connect to computers. Thermopiles connect to portable units. Your vast array of handhelds that are used to measure all forms of lighting out in the field. You even have little guys that go inside of Android and iPhone. Then you have my personal favorite, the spectrometer. And you also have light-specific meters that are dedicated to specific type of lights, like UVA, UVB. This guy here is for plant. This guy is used to measure the light that animals like. Oddly enough, it's red. And over here, we have our integrating spheres, which also come in different types and sizes. We've got the mini portable, used to measure LEDs out in the field. Your smaller unit here, also for LEDs and smaller lamps. And then you have your larger units that are used to measure all different types of fixtures, this being one, and there are even larger ones. Regardless of what you are using to collect the light, or as I like to say, photons, it's being done by one of two methods, a photodiode or a thermopile. Both behave similarly, with the thermopile working off a temperature. The thermopile is a less common sensor, so I won't bore you with all the details on this guy. Just know you can use it. But it too falls victim to the same erroneous readings as does this next guy. And that guy is the photodiode, which is the most common sensor out there. This type is used for faster, more sensitive measurements of UV or visible light. All the small handhelds use a specific silicon photodiode that can handle the light from 400 to 1100 nanometers. When you need to measure light above the 1100, they switch over to a sensor called an indium gallium arsenide detector, which can handle from 800 to 1650. Fortunately for the folks in the red light therapy, they're staying under the 1100 range, so they only need to deal with the silicon photodiode as their weapon of choice. The way this guy works is by a process called photovoltaic effect. As the photons hit the surface of a silicon photodiode, these photons are converted into electrical current, which we know exactly how to measure. So far, so good. We have a sensor that allows photons to be converted to electrical current, which we easily know how to measure and show on a screen. So where are things going afoul? Well, like everything else in this world, nothing is perfect. The photodiodes are not perfect at accurately measuring photons from 400 all the way out to 1100. No, it's going to ramp up at 400, hit a sweet spot in the middle, and then ramp down to 1100. That's just the way nature is. So how do the experts deal with this? With calibration. And that's where the proverbial shit hits the fan and how the red light guys are measuring higher than normal numbers. Okay, this is where it gets good, so zoom in and pay attention. You're the guy who made the solar meter or any of these other meters out there. He assumes that you will be using this thing to measure a full shot of sunlight that goes from 400 all the way out to 1100 nanometers. Because the sensor simply converts photons into electrical current, it has no way of knowing what photon is a 400 nanometer, 1100 nanometer, or any of these other nanometers. So it's left up to the guy who made this thing to come up with a way to calibrate the incoming light so that the reading on the screen will be an accurate representation of the true reading. Well, he says, no problem. I'm a rocket scientist. I got this. I know exactly what the silly ramp up and ramp down curve looks like. So all I have to do is add a multiplier to all the incoming photons that will account for this. He does this and says, done. Time to go back and work with Elon and see if I can get this rocket to land on a silly floating boat. Well, he was not done, because here's the problem. Here come the red light guys, and they want to use this meter to measure red light because that's all they have at their disposal. They stick this meter in front of the red light bed or panel, which are putting out only photons that are on the back side of this silly curve. And because the sensor has no idea what the hell you're doing, it applies this multiplication factor, and voila, you have a much higher number than you would have if all those photons came from a complete band of 400 to 1100 nanometers. Should these red light sales guys know this? Highly unlikely, seeing some of the engineers using this equipment don't know this. So how do you fix this problem? It's easy. You need a way to tell what wavelength the photon is when it hits the sensor. And in comes my main man, the savior of the day, the spectrometer. I'll tell you, these scientist guys are not stupid. They know the deal, and they make shit to handle these deals. Problem is, they suck at sharing the deal with the rest of us. Well, here's the deal. Because they don't really have any other way to convert photons into an electrical current, they still need to use a silicon photodiode and a gallium arsenide detector. They just came up with a new detector. It's called a photodiode array. They basically are an array of hundreds or thousands of individual photodiode and gallium detectors called pixels to detect different wavelengths of light simultaneously. And what they do is place this under a grating lens on top of this guy that separates the light like a rainbow as it comes in. Man, these guys are good. Now they have a way of accurately measuring every wavelength without adding any calibration factor. And this is how all spectrometers work. And this is the measuring device of choice when taking Irradiance readings of your red light therapy device. Have you heard or read on the internet you can't measure red light using a solar meter? It only works with the sun? That is crazy to me. Are you trying to say that the photons coming from the sun are different from the photons coming from red light? If so, someone needs to wake up Einstein and let him know that all his work was done in vain. You absolutely can use a solar meter, you just need to understand how to calibrate it to fit your situation. Luckily, you don't have to worry about that with a spectrometer. Okay, let's put this together with a real life example. Here I have one of Dr. Dave THC, not ATP, THC's grow lights. The grow light has the same 660 and 810 nanometer wavelength red LEDs that are in the panels in the beds. Also on the table, I've got a bunch of meters that are measuring these value coming out of the light. Let's start with this Ophir meter. This is it's not Ophir, this is Edmund Scientific. This is a very good meter, several $1,000 meter, qualified meter, measuring at 188 milliwatts per centimeter squared. I can assure you this light doesn't put out that kind of light. I really wish it did, but it doesn't. Well, on the other side here, we've got the Ophir, which is also another great meter. This is designated for a computer, but I'm not sure if you can see this, but it's saying 210 milliwatts. These two are not even agreeing with each other, but yet very high. In the middle here, we have our friends, the spectrometers. And if you look at these guys, you'll see, let's start with this guy easier. It's a better screen to look at. Not only does it tell you the number, it gives you the individual wavelengths that it's put out. Very nice. This guy's measuring 65.85 milliwatts per centimeter squared. And the key is, remember we talked about last in the video where the spectrometer breaks the light into individual wavelengths. That's why you can get a very good pictorial view here. With the Edmund and the Ophir, you just got a number on the screen. You had no idea where those photons came from. Oh no, not here. They're telling you exactly where these photons come from. So that spectrometer is reading 65.85. This spectrometer is reading 65.74. Now this is in watts per meter squared, so you got to do a little conversion, which just means move the decimal place over. So 65.74 and 65.85. Very close, and this is in agreement with what I've stated here. Spectrometers are the way to go, and now we know why. One last note on the misinformation of meters. Have you heard about the people talking about cosine correction as the problem with these high readings? Not true. Cosine correction is just a fancy way to describe the lens that goes over the top of the sensor. And its job is to make sure the sensor is getting all the light from all sides. As a red light person, you want all light to be measured, so cosine correction is a good thing. Okay, really, one last note. Try not to get your underwear all up in a knot over your irradiance. I find so many people are fixated on this irradiance value and its need to be such a high number. In future episodes of Dr. Dave, we're going to go into other great topics such as what does red light actually do to the mitochondria, proper dosing, a better way to quantify red light energy, and what is a good irradiance value I should expect from my bed or panel. I will leave you with one note to ponder. If you take our new awesome spectrometer out in the midday sun and hit the measure button, what irradiance value do you think you'll get? Well, it'll be around 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared. That reading includes all wavelengths from 400 to 1100 nanometers. How much of this 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared is comprised of that same 660 and 810 nanometer light that comes from your bed or panel that you're so concerned about? Need I do the math for you? It's about 2 milliwatts per centimeter squared. Obviously, there's more to nature's wonder drug than irradiance. Until next time, get out there and get some red light. Mother Nature gives it to you for free.